Dr. David Clark.
My question is to the Minister for Small Business and asks, what advice, if any, has he received on the impact of fraud, corruption and dishonesty on small business, and what has he done about it?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, no specific advice as yet. However, reading the member's question this morning, it did give me pause for thought, because I can think of some examples over the last several years that might fit into the categories the member...
Point of order. Point of order. Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Speaker, I think he's answered the question.
No, the difficulty... Order. The difficulty is the member has... The Minister certainly asked the first part of the question. No reports have been received. What has he done about it? Hasn't really yet been addressed. But I will allow the Minister to continue, but I will be listening very carefully.
No, he didn't.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, it's quite clear in a primary question such as that. The second part of the question has to relate to the first part of the question, and the first part of the question is about advice. And the Minister told us he hadn't had any advice, so therefore he can't be doing anything about it.
Speaking to the point of order, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, I was making the point I hadn't had any advice, and this is what I was about to do about it. And if the member gave me the opportunity to answer the rest of the question, I'd be happy to do that.
I think the fact the point is, what has he done about it might relate to the advice, but it could equally relate to the impact of fraud, corruption, dishonesty on small business. On this occasion, I've got to allow the Minister to continue his answer, but I'll be listening very carefully to see that the answer is in order. Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member, quite genuinely, when he gave me the question, I thought, well, I better have a look at what he might be referring to. So I tried to think of some examples in recent years that might fit into the categories the member raises, and therefore should I be acting on them? Because there was a tiling outfit in South Auckland, a Tide tiling outfit, that had a little bit of difficulty.
Order. That answer is not going to be helpful to the order of the House. Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
Supplementary question.
Order. Dr. David
Has he
Clark.
received any briefings from the former Minister, the Honourable John Banks, given his intimate knowledge of fraud, corruption and dishonesty?
Order. I'll invite the member to read the first part of the question. That's in order, but the next is a direct accusation against a member, a personal reflection of a member. I invite the member to read the first part of his question.
With respect, I'm asking...
Is the member now raising a point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
I will hear from the member.
The Minister is a former Minister of Police, and I would assume that he has knowledge of these activities. It's within his experience.
No. We're talking about the Minister of Small... Order. I don't need assistance from 60 or 70 members on my right-hand side. The member has asked a question of the Minister of Small Business. I will allow the question to be asked if it's just the first part of the question. Point of order, Honourable Dr. Nick Smith. Order. Every member has a right to raise a point of order. Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, there's a very clear standing order that members opposite have referred to in respect of the Labour candidate, Mr. Dajit Singh, who's before the courts on fraud charges, that matters that are before the courts should not be referred to in Parliament while they're there. Or any evidence about them.
That is true. Order. Would the House please settle down? I invite David Clark to ask his supplementary question with the first part only.
I'll ask a different one.
OK, he's going to ask a different question. That's all. So, order. Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
Has he received any advice from the previous Minister on exempting small business from prosecution if they sign a tax return without reading it?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, no, I don't believe I've received that at this point. There may be some advice, but I haven't yet had the opportunity to receive the large package of advice.
Order. Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
Can he list the ways small business representation at the Cabinet table has suffered in light of police evidence the former Minister received donations from big business before filing a false election return?
before the courts.
No. Order. The fact there's a matter before the courts is public knowledge. We cannot discuss the details of that case. That question is able to be answered by the Minister. Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think the member misunderstands that the Minister was a Minister outside of Cabinet, so that rather mucks up the premise of his whole question. And actually, Mr Speaker, I know the Small Business Minister took a great interest in the activities of small businesses, and the member knows that I know there's lots of small enterprises, some of which the other side of the House knows a lot about, that may have misbehaved over the years, and I'm more than happy to investigate them and actually talk about them in the House if the member wants me to.
Have I got a supplementary left, Mr.
Supplementary question, yep. Dr. David Clark.
Point of order first, Mr Speaker. I seek leave to table a graph prepared by the Parliamentary Library depicting the Cabinet papers submitted by the Minister of Small Business between April and August 2013.
Well, it's a graph that shows nothing, so it's a blank piece of paper. I don't think there's any point.
It's also the same on the other side.
The member's made his point and it will not be tabled. Supplementary question.
Supplementary. Did the former Minister of Small Business implement any specific small business policies, provide any Cabinet papers regarding small business, and if not, is not that because he has been a lame duck minister?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think the member's a fine one to call anybody a lame duck. He's been a parrot the entire time he's been in Parliament. He's had nothing to say. And that's the reality of it. He is possibly the least productive member in this House. He got thrown out of economic development about 3 months after he got the gig, and he's criticising the Small Business Minister.
Point of order. Doctor. Order. A point of order has been called.
Point of order. I appreciate the Minister's intense interest in my activities, but surely that is beyond his responsibility.
Order. Again, it's a classic case. If you ask a question that's loaded about a lame duck minister, you'll get an answer back that's relatively loaded.
Mr Speaker, point of order. Oh.
Let me clarify. I'm not saying that. I'm just repeating what the member said.
Point of order.
Honourable Dr. David Clark.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table a fraud, bribery and corruption survey which found the largest number of respondents believed
the source
the person
of the
ultimately
the
responsible.
source of the document?
It's from KPMG. I have copied a hard copy.
Is it freely available on the internet?
I'm not sure if it's available, Mr Speaker.
Well, no, the member's saying he's not sure.
Yep. It shows that the...
Order. We've had enough of an explanation. I'll put the leave. It's a fraud report prepared by KPMG. Leave is sought to table it. Is there any objection? There is. Question number 12, Scott Simpson.
Mr Speaker, thank you. My question is to the Minister of Corrections and asks, what recent announcements has she made on improving the safety of corrections staff?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable